Autosecure, as an example, allows you to automatically lock down the router using Cisco best practices, but you need to be very careful choosing that option because you could lock yourself out of your own router. The router then shows you a summary of what you've configured, and looking at some of the configuration, notice we gave the router a name of R1. We configured the VTY lines used for Telnet and SSH with a password of Cisco. So the options that were chosen through the initial configuration dialog have now been converted into Cisco iOS commands that can be applied on the router. At the end of the menu, we are prompted with three options. 0, go to the iOS command prompt without saving this configuration, and that's what we want to do. 1, return back to the setup without saving this config. 2, save this configuration to NVRAM and exit. So we're going to choose 0 because we don't want to use the configuration from the initial configuration dialog. We want to configure the router using Cisco iOS commands. You are told that you can enter setup again by using the setup command, but we're not interested in doing that. We're going to configure the router through the CLI commands. So we're going to hit enter or press return to get started on the CLI. And here we are. You can see that we're presented with a router prompt, and this is known as user mode. Now, as mentioned, it's important that you get to know the various modes available on Cisco routers and switches. The first mode is user mode. Now, the Cisco iOS software is designed with a hierarchical structure for various modes. Modes that you'll encounter include user mode, which we're discussing right now, privilege mode, which we'll talk about in a moment, as well as global configuration mode and other modes. You can enter commands into the CLI by typing or copying and pasting the commands through your terminal emulation software. It's important that the right command be typed in the right mode, and the mode is indicated with a distinctive prompt. The term prompt is used because the system is prompting you to make an entry. So by default, every prompt begins with the device name, which in this example would be router, because we haven't configured the name of the device. Following the name, the remainder of the prompt indicates the mode, and in this case, we're in user mode, and we know that because it has a greater than sign behind the host name of the router. As you enter commands, modes can change. So in a moment, I'm going to show you how to type enable in user mode to go to privilege mode or enable mode, and you'll see that the prompt changes. When you press enter or hit carriage return, you're instructing the device to pass and execute the command that you've entered. Now, once again, this mode is user mode, and it only gives us a limited number of basic monitoring commands. You can see the commands available in this mode by using question mark. So when I use question mark, I can see the commands available in this mode. Pressing enter will show me one additional line at a time. Some show commands are available in this mode, including show version, which allows me to see the version of operating system on the router. It also allows me to see other information, including the amount of RAM installed in the router, which interfaces are available on the router, amount of NVRAM available, and how much flash is installed in the router. By typing sh question mark, I'll be able to see which commands start with sh, and I can use the tab key to complete a command. So if I type show space question mark, I'll be able to see the sub-options available for the show command. If I press spacebar, it shows me additional options, one page at a time. Pressing enter once again shows me one additional line of options. So if I type show space v question mark, for example, I can see which commands start with show v. If I press enter at this point, I'm told that I've entered an ambiguous command because there are multiple commands that start with show v. I can then use the key combination Control P or simply use the up arrow key to see the previously typed command. I'll type E and press question mark again, And now I can see that there's only one command option available, which is show version. If I press enter at this point, the router accepts the command because that's the only option available to me. If I try and type commands that are only valid in other modes, in this mode, the router will reject the command. So as an example, I'll type conft, which should be typed in privilege mode. The router doesn't accept the command. Conft takes me to global configuration mode, but requires me to be in privilege mode when I type that command. So the router doesn't accept the command. It's a valid command, but I'm in the wrong mode, so the command is not accepted. The host name command is only valid in global configuration mode. And once again, if I try and type it in user mode, the router will reject the command. It's a valid command, but I'm in the wrong mode, so the router doesn't accept it. Before you can do any configuration on the router or switch, you need to go to enable mode or privilege mode. And the way to do that is to type en, or if I press tab, the command is auto-completed to enable, and now I press enter, I'm taken to privilege mode or enable mode. Notice the prompt has changed from a greater than sign to a hash or pound sign, whichever term you prefer using.